Hi everyone, thanks for coming to my channel. Today I want to be talking about films associated with the actress Gail Russell, a really fragile actress who very sadly died when she was only 36 in 1961. I'm going to talk about a few of her movies, but I'm also going to talk about John Wayne because it's quite interesting to think about the films that he starred with Gail Russell with directly, but also his indirect association with her film career. Now, it really does touch my heart when I hear about some of these actresses who died way too young. I've talked before on my channel about a few actresses who died in their 30s that had mental health challenges and drink problems. One of those actresses was Barbara Payton, who was in Four-Sided Triangle for Hammer Films. I've also talked about Janet Munro, who starred in The Day the Earth Caught Fire. And I've talked about Virginia Maskell as well, who starred alongside Peter Sellers in Only Two Can Play and died when she was only 31. Now, the film that really made me want to do this video is this one, 7 Men From Now, but I will come on to this later. But first, let's go back to 1944, and this is really where it all began for the young actress Gail Russell, because she got a pretty significant role in this film, The Uninvited. This was directed by Lewis Allen and it starred Ray Milland and Ruth Hussey. So at the time, Gail Russell had been pretty much chosen from high school for her good looks and signed onto a contract with Paramount. And this was the first significant film that she had. This film is a significant film because it's one of the first films that really takes the subject of a ghost story seriously. So beforehand there'd been films with Bob Hope, for example, such as The Ghost Breakers and The Cat and the Canary, that always had a humour element to them. But here we now have a movie that was quite dramatic and serious. So Ray Milland and Ruth Hussey playing a brother and sister who come across this magnificent house on a cliff top on the Cornish coast. It's abandoned. They want to be able to buy it. They manage to get hold of it pretty quickly. But the granddaughter, whose mother used to live in the house, is very opposed to them actually taking ownership of it, and she obviously has a strong connection to the house. The house is haunted, and this becomes a mystery film really to understand why it's haunted and what will need to happen in order to set the spirits free. Really effective movie. It has great spirit effects actually towards the end of the movie, but yeah, it's a good drama, it's a good mystery. I wouldn't say it's a scary film, but it's very compelling. Really good performances from Ray Milland and Ruth Hussey. But although Gail Russell is not the lead actress in this, very much the film is on her shoulders because she's at the heart of the story here. For her first film when she was only like 19, it really is quite a significant one for her. And apparently, she found it quite difficult on set. She's not used to acting. She hadn't had any acting experience. She did start taking to drink a little bit so that she could calm her nerves. Unfortunately, this ended up being the start of a trend for her, which went on throughout the rest of her short life. Now, The Uninvited was quite a success, and the same director, Lewis Allen, cast Gail Russell again the next year in a follow-up movie called The Unseen, a kind of companion piece, but a different story. Gail Russell in this one playing a governess who comes to look after 2 children, and the man of the house is played by Joel McCrea, quite a stern role for him. And the mystery here is that there has been a murder on this street, and it seems as though the boy at least knows about the killer, and so this is kind of a mystery about who the killer may be and whether they're going to get attacked or not. Kind of a mystery element to this one, but you can really see in this one that Gail Russell is quite nervous as an actress. There's a lot of hand wringing that you see in her hands and tension, so she's very good in it, but there is a stiffness to her performance in this one. Now, in 1947, and the same year that John Wayne had big success with the film Red River, he also produced his first movie, and it was one called The Angel and the Badman. And Gail Russell had a co-starring role in this one. But yeah, really interesting Western, because in this one we have John Wayne playing an outlaw who actually hangs up his guns because he's given refuge by a Quaker family, and whilst he's staying with this genteel family, he develops a real love and friendship for the young woman of the house, who is played by Gail Russell. But there's always this threat of violence because there are men still after him. So yeah, this is a really interesting Western, nicely played, and the chemistry between John Wayne and Gail Russell in this one is really good. There's a real fragility to her performance and a tenderness to the relationship between them. So yeah, really, really good film, this one. Now, here's my book, The Encyclopedia of Western Movies. And there's just a scene there from Angel and the Badman with John Wayne carrying Gail Russell in his arms, and that's Harry Carey playing the sheriff standing beside them. Now, 1948 turned out to be a really significant year for Gail Russell, with 3 really impressive movies. Now, one of those was this one, Night Has a Thousand Eyes. Great movie this, with Edward G. Robinson. So Edward G. Robinson in this one plays a stage mentalist who kind of tricks his audience into sort of guessing their futures. But the twist here is that he does actually have true precognition as well, and it's quite scary for him. And then that ends up linking in with Gail Russell's family, the Cortland family, and whether or not he can actually prevent a death. So Gail Russell's role in this one is a really significant part of the film. So again, although she's not the headline star, she's the heart of the film, and yeah, she's really good in this. But yeah, great performance from Edward G. Robinson, and this is directed by John Farrow, who also directed John Wayne in The Sea Chase, and also directed Ray Milland in Alias Nick Beale. The second film from 1948, it's another film that's in the Criterion Collection, and it is Moonrise, directed by Frank Borzage, a film that absolutely has to be seen for the first 5 minutes because there's some really impressive camera work and use of silhouettes, and also a really fierce fist fight involving Lloyd Bridges. Now, the film itself concerns a man played by Dane Clark who has grown up being bullied throughout his life and cajoled because his father committed a crime and was hanged for it, and so he's not been allowed to forget that, and he gets bullied for it, and he's grown up very full of anger and resentment, and yeah, that leads to a crime of his own. And it also leads to him getting involved with a very fragile girl who is played by Gail Russell. Now, the thing with this movie is, although it's in the Criterion Collection and it does have that really fantastic opening sequence, this isn't a movie that I particularly love. I find it interesting, but I do think that Gail Russell's character in this one is very underwritten, and so that makes the film a little bit weak, and I also do think that the melodrama is kind of overplayed. But absolutely, it's an interesting film, and like I say, directed by Frank Borzage. And then the third film in 1948 has Gail Russell reuniting with John Wayne for the film Wake of the Red Witch, a film which has echoes of a previous John Wayne and Ray Milland movie directed by Cecil B. DeMille in 1942, and that was Reap the Wild Wind. So in this film, we've got John Wayne playing a ship's captain in the 1860s. He is fighting with a former colleague over the love of the same woman, played by Gail Russell, and also hoping to find pearls and buried gold at the site of a shipwreck. So yeah, this is an enjoyable film for sure, although it doesn't have the greatest flow to it. There's sequences that are told in flashback, and so yeah, it does tend to waver in terms of its interest. But the scenes between John Wayne and Gail Russell are really good. There's such a tenderness between them, and that really comes across on screen. Elsewhere, her performance is again a bit stiff, and you do see that sort of anxiousness in her. But yeah, overall, quite an enjoyable film, this one. But yeah, maybe not the greatest. Now, in 1950 came what was to be Gail Russell's last film for Paramount, because they dropped her because of her drinking problems. The film was The Lawless. Now, I've not seen this one, but I know friend of the channel Solitary Ronin has, because it is directed by Joseph Losey, a director that he's really fond of. So do go and check out his review of The Lawless on his channel. Now, the interesting thing with this movie, again, I haven't seen it, but it's a film about mob mentality involving a Mexican fruit picker. But the interesting thing for me about the film is that the script on this is by Daniel Manwaring, who is a scriptwriter. He wrote Invasion of the Body Snatchers, and he also wrote the story Build My Gallows High, which was made into the classic film noir Out of the Past, starring Robert Mitchum. And also, if any of you are friends of my channel and have heard me talk about the films of John Gilliman before, well, yes, Daniel Manwaring also wrote the script for the film Thunderstorm, which is a film I've championed before. Absolutely love that movie. Now, after being dropped by Paramount, Gail Russell did continue to have some film roles, but not particularly notable movies, except in 1956 she got the opportunity to have a co-starring role in this movie, 7 Men From Now. This was the first collaboration between Randolph Scott and director Bud Boedicker. They went on to have the Renown Westerns, which was a combination of Randolph Scott and producer Harry Joe Brown, Renown. But this is not a Renown production, but I'll come on to that later. But yeah, this is just a near perfect movie, and it has become one of my all-time favourite westerns, and it was from watching this and seeing Gail Russell's performance in it as well that made me want to do this video. Now, in this movie we've got Randolph Scott playing an ex-sheriff. He's on the hunt for 7 men who have robbed a Wells Fargo bank, and they killed a woman in the process. That woman was Randolph Scott's wife. So he's a man on a mission. Whilst he's on the hunt, he comes across a pioneering couple with Gail Russell here, and so he agrees to help them and develops a fondness for her. But he's also being followed by a guy that he put away once when he was a sheriff, and that is played by Lee Marvin. And Lee Marvin is after any money that may be found or recovered when he gets to catch up with the 7 men. The storytelling in this is just brilliant. It's such a tight movie, only 78 minutes, and it's just magnificent. Everything about this movie works. Randolph Scott is excellent. Gail Russell, like I say, she really blew me away in this. I think she's absolutely terrific. And Lee Marvin as well. This may well be one of my favourite Lee Marvin performances. He is absolutely brilliant in this. So yeah, I hugely love this movie. It is absolutely fantastic. So as most people know, the Renown Westerns have had a resurgence in recent years because they've had editions put out by Criterion and Indicator. So the Renown Westerns are The Tall T, Decision at Sundown, Buchanan Rides Alone, Ride Lonesome, and Comanche Station. But yeah, like I say, 7 Men From Now is not a Renown production. Let me come on to that. Okay, so at the start of this video, I said that John Wayne had a kind of direct and indirect link with a lot of Gail Russell's film career. So what do I mean by that? Okay, well, let's go back to 1942, because that was the year that John Wayne starred alongside Ray Milland in Reap the Wild Wind, and also in 1942, John Wayne starred alongside Randolph Scott in Pittsburgh. So in 1944, Ray Milland, the co-star of Reap the Wild Wind, gets the role of the Uninvited, starring Gail Russell. Now in 1947, John Wayne's Angel in the Badman, that was his first film as a producer, and he had it directed by a screenwriting partner who was James Edward Grant. Now James Edward Grant went on to write the script for Bud Boedicker's Bullfighter and the Lady. 1948, as I said before, Night Has 1,000 Eyes. That was directed by John Farrow. John Farrow also directed John Wayne in The Sea Chase, as well as Ray Milland in Alias Nick Beale. And John Wayne's Wake of the Red Witch. Now that's a significant film because the shipping company that's involved in that film is called Batjack, and John Wayne ended up forming his own production company called Batjack Productions. Moonrise, that other film from 1948 that was directed by Frank Borzage. Well, Frank Borzage ended up not being able to work after that film. He got blacklisted. It was another 10 years before he was able to make another film. That film was China Doll, starring Victor Mature. It was co-produced by Batjack Productions. And then 7 Men From Now, this great collaboration between Randolph Scott and Bud Boetticher. Well, that was a Batjack production. And also the film's writer, Burt Kennedy, that was his first script, but he also then went on to direct some movies as well, including directing John Wayne in The War Wagon and The Train Robbers. Now, Gail Russell's final film came in 1961. It was a movie called The Silent Call. I haven't seen it. It's a more of a sort of family film, if you like, about a boy looking for his dog after the family moved to California. Now, how this links in with John Wayne? Again, this is a film that has a script by Hal G. Everts, and his very first script was actually made into the film of The Silent Call in 1921, so this was a remake in 1961. But the other script that Hal G. Everts wrote that really was of any significance throughout his career, well, that was in 1930, a film directed by Raoul Walsh, starring a certain John Wayne, and that was The Big Trail. And there are some other things about John Wayne of a more personal nature, rumours around alleged relationship or fondness for Gail Russell and how it may have affected his marriage and his divorce. But I don't really want to go into that. You can read up about that if you want to. But yeah, I really just wanted to make this video as a kind of tribute to the memory of Gail Russell. So she may not have been a fantastic actress. Certainly her nerves show on screen. She was a fragile nature, but that really actually makes her really noticeable on screen. And she has absolutely stunning eyes. The whites of her eyes really show on screen, and you just can't help but look at her. So yeah, a fragile beauty for sure. So yeah, really good in some of the movies, particularly Night Has a Thousand Eyes. Absolutely tremendous in 7 Men From Now, and really touching in her relationships with John Wayne in Angel and the Badman and Wake of the Red Witch. But yeah, The Uninvited, that was a lot of pressure to do that film at such a young age. She's really good in that, despite all of that. So yeah, maybe not the finest actress in the world, but certainly she was involved in some very significant movies. And yeah, I was really glad to sort of go down this rabbit hole of revisiting some of these movies, because I had seen some of them before, but I guess they just hadn't really properly registered with me until I saw 7 Men From Now, and I really just sat up and couldn't help but look at her on screen. I was just absolutely entranced by her, and just that movie, like I say, it really has become one of my all-time favourite westerns. I just think it's absolutely terrific. Okay, that's enough for now. Thanks very much for watching this. Let me know your thoughts and comments on anything to do with Gail Russell. Thanks very much for watching this. I appreciate it. Okay, all the best. Bye-bye.